Welcome back, folks. Today it is time to test out the 73 grain Hornady ELD match. From what I can tell, this is the heaviest Hornady bullet with a tip that can be loaded to magazine length for the AR-15. There's also a 75 grain ELD match, but they have to be loaded too long for our AR magazines. So really looking forward to seeing how these guys perform. I'm hoping they'll be good ones. Now, these were sent to me from one of my Patreon supporters. We'll call him Jay. Jay sent me a box of these 73 grain ELD match bullets. He also sent me a couple hundred pieces of Starline 223 brass. We're going to be using that today as well. And the other thing he sent me was an overall length gauge, a Hornady overall length gauge. If you're not familiar with one of these guys, you buy one of these modified cases that has the base drilled and tapped, or you can drill and tap your own cases. And then this makes it very easy to measure your maximum length, you know, to the lands of your rifling. So we're going to try this guy out today as well. So the current prices, as I'm looking today, they're $21.50 at Brownells and Midway. But over at Natchez Shooter Supplies, they are $19.29. So if you haven't ordered from Natchez before, you should add them to your list of websites to check prices on, no doubt about it, because they very often beat the big guys. And the other good thing for me is they have an affiliate program to where if you go down into my description, click on my link and then buy, same price for you, but they kick me a couple pennies on the dollar for the referral. So we all win, brother. We all win. But at more or less 20 cents a piece, these are priced pretty good for, you know, for bullets in this weight class and of this style. I'm hoping they're going to shoot awesome. Now, the kind gentleman who sent me these bullets said he was planning to try out IMR 8208 XBR and VihtaVuori N140 with this bullet. So that's what I want to try today. These are some outstanding choices. These are generally very accurate powders. So I think we're giving the 73 grain ELD a really good chance to shoot well with this combo. For primers, I'm going to use CCI 400 primers. Just the standard CCI small rifle primers. So if we consult the Book of Armament, the Hornady reloading manual, and if I find the right page, they have load data for this bullet in a couple sections. So their 5.56 NATO section has it, but also they've got it in the 223 Remington service rifle data section. Now, the maximum pressure for 5.56 is a little bit higher than 223. So that's the biggest, you know, distinction between the two, and you'll generally see a little bit higher charge weights in the 5.56 section. So for VihtaVuori N140, 5.56, they show a max charge of 24.8 grains. And in the service rifle 223 section, they show 23.6 grains. Now, if we go to the VihtaVuori website, they also have load data. They don't have this specific bullet. They do have the 75 grain Hornady boat tail hollow point match bullet. And for that bullet, they show a max of 25.0 grains. So their charge weight's a little bit higher and it's with a heavier bullet, but it's pretty close. So I want to shoot all the way up to the maximum 5.56 charge weight here in the Hornady manual, which is 24.8 grains. They show an overall length of 2.250. That's just a Hornady thing. For magazine length AR stuff, they generally go with 2.250. We know we can stretch that out to 2.260, but I think we're just going to stick with what Hornady says at 2.250. That's never a bad idea. You know, gives us a little bit of extra room. So that's the plan. I want to shoot 0.4 of a grain increments. That'll let us cover a little bit more ground than the, you know, 0.3 increments that I generally like to shoot. So that'll take us all the way down. So we're going to shoot 23.2 up to 24.8. Now, 23.2 is not exactly all the way down to their, you know, minimum charge or their starting charge. It's actually barely below the 23.5 grain load they show as max in the 223 section. So shooting a little bit hot, I probably shouldn't do that. It's not setting a very good example to my audience, but it is what it is. So with IMR 8208 XBR, they do not have data in the 223 section, but they do have it in the 5.56 section. and they show a max charge of 22.8 grains. If we go to the Hodgdon website, they have data for the 77 grain Sierra. They don't have our 73 grain ELD, unfortunately. But they've got the 77 grain Sierra, and they show a max charge of 23.2 grains with that bullet. So significantly heavier bullet, and their max charge is a half grain above what Hornady says. And Hornady's data is 556, and Hodgdon is 223. So most of us already know that the Hornady manual is generally extremely conservative. You never hit the velocities they say you're going to. So whether it's smart or not, we're building a little bit of that into choosing our loads here. So I want to shoot all the way up to Hornady's maximum of 22.8. We'll set that as our max. Once again, we'll shoot 0.4 of a grain increments, which will take us down to 21.2 grains as a starting charge. Again, we could stand to probably start a little bit lower, but we're living life on the edge here. So here's my gun. I think I've got the chamber area clean enough to do this without getting ourselves too dirty. But the Hornady gauge is extremely easy to use. There's a, you got a little lock screw here, and then this plastic piece here. There it is. You can see it moves back and forth very easily and up into the case and all the way out the case if you push it far enough. So we pull it down a little bit. We take a bullet, which will slide right down into the case. And then we've basically got a bullet that we can push in and out as necessary. So then we just put this up into our chamber. We push it forward until it stops, and then we tighten down the lock screw. Wow, we actually got the bullet to come out that time. A lot of times your bullet ends up getting stuck in your lands, but if you don't push too hard, sometimes it won't. And then we just take our calipers and measure overall length like that. So 2.369. We're shooting 2.250. So we can see we're going to have bullet jump of over 1/10 of an inch, right? It's going to be 120, right? Yep, it's going to be about 120 thousandths. So we don't have to worry about interference or running into problems or jamming bullets into our lands at our overall length of 2.250. Like I mentioned, we're going to be using Starline brass, and I'll tell you what, I'll just prime these as I'm moving them from my case over to my loading block. This is once fired brass that I've already resized and tumbled, and actually they haven't needed trimmed yet. Yeah, this guy right here is 1.750. That's kind of what I'm seeing is a lot of 1.745s to 1.750s. So this batch just hasn't need trimmed yet. There's a 1.748. We use the trusty RCBS hand priming tool. So we've been having good luck with this Starline brass so far. Nothing to complain about. I did do a separate video talking about how it is thick brass. You know, it doesn't have the most case capacity. But you'd think a nice thick, healthy brass should be durable. The primer pockets feel pretty good. I'm hoping they'll stand up over time. But so far so good. I really like working with VihtaVuori N140 powder. It's such a shortcut extruded powder that it measures out very consistently. And it's easy to trickle. Just like normal, I'm weighing them out a little bit light, trickling them up to perfect. And then moving on to the next one. The Lyman Gen 6 does make the process a little bit less annoying and a little bit faster, but I've had some people recommend I get a second pan so that I could have the next one weighing out while I dump the first. And that would probably work, but you'd have to have pans that were precisely exactly the same weight. Which I guess it wouldn't be hard. You could take the one that's heavier and just shave off a little bit from the handle or something until the weight was just right. I may look into that. All right, so weighing out powder is kind of boring. So I'll see you guys here in a few minutes whenever I'm ready to start seating some bullets. All right, so the VihtaVuori N140 charges are weighed out. So let's get to some bullet seating. My bullet seating die is set from the 77 grain Match King, so backed it out a little bit. Wow, I've actually got my adjustment screw all the way down, and I'm only down to 2.286. So I'm going to have to actually drop my die a little bit. That's interesting. No big deal. I mean, that's not a problem at all. What I'll do, so I've dropped my die a little bit. Now I'll just run the case up in it and then screw it down until it touches and then go a little bit farther. Let's see what that gets us. Nope, I didn't touch it. Or hopefully I'm not hitting the... All right, so this seating die does have a crimp in it. So let me double check it and make sure I'm not screwing it down until it actually is hitting the crimp. So I'm just going to screw the die all the way down. There we go. I feel it touching. I'll back it off just a little ways, quarter turn or so. There we go. Now we're moving it a little bit. Yeah, that was weird. But that's definitely something to always be careful about whenever you run out of adjustment and need to move your die. If it's got a crimp in it, you need to make sure you're not engaging that crimp. 2.271, still a little bit long. I'm out of adjustment again. Wow. That's all the way down. 2.266. All right, back the stem out again. And I'll loosen up the die. I'm only a quarter turn off of where I felt the crimp touch. So I don't have a long way to go, right? Or I don't have a lot of adjustment here. Wow, I'm out of adjustment and we're still at 2.256. This is blowing my mind here. All right, so this is a very narrow ogive, which means that, well, actually, I'll show you what's going on, just in case maybe you're not following the problem here. All right, so our seating stem goes down the bullet to push it, right? Well, it's going a long way down onto the bullet. If the ogive shape meant that it was touching up here instead of down here, then that would give us a whole lot more adjustment. I think we've just got a bullet design where the ogive is low, and it just means that I've run out of adjustment. I'll tell you what, here's what we'll do. So this bullet has no cantilever, right? We don't really need to crimp or anything, but here's what I'll do. Because, I don't crimp with my seating dies very often. But I think that's what we'll do here today. So if I go ahead and screw the die down until I feel it make like our seating stem, it might as well be out, right? The seating stem is not involved in this. But if you take your die, screw it down until you feel it touch the case, that's the crimping portion touching the mouth of the case. So right there, just, it's just barely touching. So it's probably not really applying any significant crimp. So that's about a little under a quarter of a turn, maybe an eighth of a turn farther down than I was just a couple minutes ago. So this should give us the necessary adjustment range. Yeah. So now I'm bottomed out again. So crimping ring lightly touching the case mouth, seating stem adjustment all the way down, and it's finally given me just about the number I need. My last reading was 2.252. This should be just about perfect. There we go, 2.250. So we barely got there. Let's seat a couple more here and see if we get consistent readings with this bullet. 2.247. 2.246. So maybe we're just a little bit too far, but that's okay. A couple thousandths never hurt anybody. 2.246. I seem to be getting some copper shavings off the bullet. There you go. See that dust on my finger there? That was around the case mouth. So that's not good. Let me look at like here's the mouth of one of the cases I haven't thrown powder into. You can see I have chamfered the inside of the case mouth. So I don't know why this is digging up copper. There we go. This guy, I just went ahead and hit it a little bit more with a, this is a VLD style. The narrow chamfer should give a significant chamfer to the case mouth. I'm going to end up with some brass shavings down in my powder, but that's better than a scraped up bullet, I think. So let me try seating this guy. Nothing at all on that one. Yeah, nothing at all. So I guess I just did not quite chamfer these enough. Yep, that one's perfectly fine as well. So that's what I'm going to need to do is hit these guys with the chamfer one more time before I seat them. Interesting. And we're not going to use the Leaf Factory crimp die since, our seating die, we've kind of got it set to where it might be given the tiniest of squeezes, but nothing you're going to be able to visually see. So that is ready to shoot. I should probably dump this powder out, chamfer the cases, and then reweigh all the powder. But man, that's a lot of work. I'm going to try and do this the extremely lazy way. Tell you what, these first 7 I can go ahead and put in the ammo box. Let's see if I can just do the rest of these right here in the ammo tray. Figure that's the least likely way for me to spill a bunch of powder everywhere. Definitely not an ideal situation. Crap. Oh, this sucks. All right, now we're back in business. Those first 5 shots that definitely got a little bit of copper scrapage. It'll be interesting to watch and see whether they have any noticeable difference in accuracy. Yeah, these are all perfect. Like I said, I did not trim this brass since the last firing, so maybe I visually saw the chamfer and thought it was new, but it was actually the old chamfer from last time, right? Still mostly intact. And maybe I didn't chamfer them. It's been a couple days since I prepped this brass, so maybe I missed that step, because just a tiniest little bit of chamfer and now no problems at all. So it went from those first 5 rounds definitely had clear copper scrapage, and then these none at all. So That should tell you the importance of a nice light chamfer. So if you can hear a little bit of crunchiness going on there, you probably can't hear it, but it is crunching just a little bit. These higher loads of VihtaVuori N140 are definitely compressed a little bit, and overall length has grown. So our overall length has grown a little bit here. Now I'm up to 2.257. But the problem is I don't have any adjustment left on my bullet seating die, so we can't really chase it down like I normally would. Sometimes a little shake and then a second pass through the seating die will get it a little bit of extra. Yeah, this is about the same, about 2.258. So we're still okay. We're still under magazine length. But we're growing a little bit since this is a pretty heavily compressed load. 8208 XBR, where our charge weight is a couple grains less. You know, it's a faster burning powder. We're not going to be dealing with such a full case. Those won't have any problems. So speaking of 8208 XBR, that's what I need to do next, is weigh those out and seat those bullets. If something interesting comes up, I'll flip the camera on, but otherwise, let's just go ahead and get out on the range. Okay, folks, we've got a target at 100 yards. My gun is an 18-inch white oak armament barrel with a 1-in-8 twist. All of the other details about the gun are down in the description. So let's start out with VihtaVuori N140. 23.2 grains is first. And these are the bullets that got scratched up, or, you know, got a little bit of copper scraped off of them. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. So that group started out really good, but the last couple shots screwed it up a little bit. That's okay. Not bad for scraped up bullets. Next up is 23.6 grains. All right, 2,602 feet per second. So velocities are looking good. The pressure signs on the brass are looking pretty good. And the groups are not bad. So moving right along, 24.0 grains. That last shot felt like a good shot, so that's a little bit disappointing. But brass, no pressure signs to speak of so far, so moving right along to 24.4 grains. Okay, last up, 24.8 grains. All right, no pressure signs on the brass. We got up to 27.25, so that's good. I was worried we were starting a little bit too high with the charge weight, but 25.50 to 27.25 isn't an insane velocity range for this bullet. So, all right, I'm gonna take a little break, let the gun cool down just a touch, and then we'll move on. Okay, moving on to 8208 XBR. Our first charge is 21.2 grains. All right, 2,490 feet per second, that's good. Looks like we started low enough. No pressure signs on the brass. Better standard deviation number, and the group wasn't too bad. So next up is 21.6 grains. All right, that was a better looking group. Brass still looks just fine. No pressure signs to speak of, so 22.0 grains is next. All right, folks, now we're cooking with gas. That was a good looking group. These are 3/4 inch dots that I'm shooting at. So that's a really good group. 2,608 feet per second, 10.1 feet per second standard deviation. It's all good. And most importantly, no pressure signs on the brass. So we're moving on, 22.4 grains. All right, no pressure to speak of on 22.4. So last up here is 22.8. All right, that looks like a really good combination here. Velocity 2726 with a 2.2 feet per second standard deviation. The extreme spread was 7, or actually it's 6. The lowest velocity was 2723, the highest was 2729. So that is outstanding, outstanding. And a good group to match it. All right, let's get back to the bench. All right, here's a look at the brass, and this is going to be a pretty quick look because there's not a whole lot to see here, except for the last row, which is our highest charge of 8208 XBR, 22.8 grains of 8208 XBR. There are a couple pieces here. There we are, right at the top. Little bit of an ejector mark and a swipe there. And with my gun, that's always the first sign of pressure. So except for those two pieces, all of the others looked fine. No problems at all with the VihtaVuori N140 brass. Thank heavens for some 8208 XBR, right? Boy, when we were shooting N140, I was really disappointed. I was really disappointed. It was just 1.5 groups almost across the board. And then our last guy was a 1.9 inch group. I expected much better. VihtaVuori powders are generally good for some good groups, man. But we just weren't seeing it. So I was starting to get a little bit depressed, thinking that the old 73 ELD just wasn't going to make it happen. But in comes 8208 XBR, brother. Shot some really good groups. Our top charge there, 22.8 grains, was our best group of the day at a 495. Now, unfortunately, we did see a little bit of pressure signs on the brass, so that's maybe hotter than I would like to shoot all the time. 27, 26 feet per second with that crazy 2.2 feet per second standard deviation. But 22 grains here at 2,600 feet per second with a 560, that looks like it might be a good load. A nice little area to perhaps explore a little closer to nail down something good. Not sure what was going on here at the low end, you know, with the 1.12 inch group, but they certainly tightened up quickly after that. I don't know at this point if I would trust 22, because you can see how it kind of, we had a little bit of a point of impact shift there between 21.6 and 22, right? That's our whole group shifted up about a ½ inch and then stayed high. So I would want to, you know, maybe explore 21.8 and 21.2 to make sure that, you know, we're clearly out of that transition zone and we don't get, you know, high and low flyers like we see sometimes whenever that's going on. But that's pretty good stuff, man. Very good stuff. And, you know, it makes me a whole lot more enthusiastic about the bullet and trying other powders and buying more of them, because it'll clearly shoot. It'll absolutely clearly shoot if you get the right powder. And you guys know how this goes. You know, if we could switch primer and this could completely flip. Or we could change guns and this could completely flip. And that's what makes reloading fun, I guess. But I'll tell you what, these guys at, you know, more or less 20 cents a bullet, and the 75 grain match bullet, let's see, how much are they? Stand by. Yeah, these guys seem to be close, pretty close as far as price goes. But you're saving, what, 7, 8, 9 cents a bullet when compared to the 77 grain Match Kings. And they really seem to be performers, because actually the 75 grain was one of the first bullets I tested whenever I bought this White Oak Armament barrel. I think back in the break-in video for that barrel, shot some of these and they shot outstanding. I really like these bullets. So I think that's enough for this video. If you guys have other powders, specific powders you'd like me to test with the 73 or the 75, let me know. Otherwise, what I'll probably do is go over to my Mark 262 cloning series and pick out some of the better powders from that series and try them out. You know, I was you know, early on I was a little bit worried that I was, you know, picking charge weights that were too high and we really should have started lower, but the velocities weren't goofy at all. Like, you know, 2556 to start out with N140 and then 2490 to start out with 8208 XBR. So that was low enough, you know. Freaking Hornady manual's just conservative. So all right, that's enough for today. If you'd like to help support the channel, come to patreon.com/reloading. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and it helps a ton. It helps a lot, because all of you guys know this stuff isn't cheap. And hopefully my videos are saving you at least $1 a month, pointing you in the right direction, saving you a little bit of heartache. So I really appreciate the support. You can also check out my affiliate links down in the description. Amazon, Brownells, Natchez Shooter Supplies. It's the same price for you, but I get a little cut. And you know, with Amazon, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're buying toilet paper. You can buy toilet paper and support this channel. I mean, come on. You can't beat that. So that's enough for today. I'll see you guys next time.